All right, well, we will get started here. We will open this year's fiscal year 27, HUD program year 26 annual action plan public meeting. We will go over today the annual planning, appropriations, and spending process for the city of Tucson and Pima County's HUD entitlement funds. We'll go over how we arrived at our funding and community priorities, as well as give opportunity for the public to speak and provide any comments. I am Andrew Paredes. I am the Community Development Administrator for the City of Tucson's Housing and Community Development Department. We are going to go over the city and the county's annual plan for the upcoming HUD program and city-county fiscal year for entitlement programs, Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, Home Investment Partnerships, or HOME funds, Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA. Each of these programs is annually appropriated by Congress and then sent to local municipalities and counties and states by HUD each year as entitlement grants. All receiving or entitlement agencies are required by HUD to come up with a consolidated plan every 5 years. That's kind of the big planning effort that, in this case, the city and county undertake, and we did so last year in 2025. We went out to the community, sought input in terms of areas of need and funding priorities, and then came up with a 5-year spending plan. Each year thereafter, and we are entering year 2. Sorry about that. I am just getting a ping about a technical difficulty, so please bear with me for a moment. I'm going to see if I can help someone out. Gotcha. We have someone migrating over from Zoom. Each year after the first consolidated planning year, the city and county are required to refresh their plan by doing an annual action plan. We take a look kind of inside of our 5-year spending plan to see if we're keeping up and where needed, if we need to make any adjustments to the plan. After we submit our annual action plan to HUD and it's approved, the city and county receive our annual entitlement funds. We go to implementing our programs, and at the end of the fiscal year or the HUD program year, we report up through the Consolidated Appropriations Plan and Entitlement Report. That might not be it, but we call it the CAPER, and it's the annual plan we submit to HUD about what we did in the preceding year with our HUD entitlement funds. In preparation for the current consolidated plan, the city went out in 2024 to the community and kind of redid and refreshed the People, Community, Housing and Investment Plan, People, Communities, Homes and Investment Plan, or what we refer to as PCHIP. You can see here the variety of community meetings and stakeholder input we received in coming up with the new priorities for the subsequent 5 years that we're in for our PCHIP. As you can see, lack of affordable housing and homelessness really rose to the top in terms of feedback and community need. Therefore, that informed a lot of the city and county spending priorities for the subsequent 5 years, of which we're in year number 2. The funding priorities that we were advised by the community and the city and county came up with are listed here on your screen, as well as the target populations, again informed by the PCHIP planning process in 2024 and the consolidated plan that Mayor and Council, as well as the County Board of Commissioners, approved in spring of 2025. A bit unique to the city of Tucson and Pima County, for receipt and spending of the home investment partnerships or home funds, the city and county form a consortium so that we can essentially throw in all the resources that not only the city, but the county receive from HUD into one larger bucket in order to be able to fund affordable housing opportunities together. We find that more often than not, larger affordable housing apartment projects, for example, take more than either the city or the county have sometimes from year to year in order to get off the ground. So by combining efforts, combining resources, city and county are able to work together to fund those larger affordable housing projects where needed. I did see a chat asking if the meeting is being recorded, and yes, it is, and we will be posting the recording on our website following the meeting. Hello, welcome to the Public Annual Action Plan meeting, if that's what you're here for. Great. Just had another member of the public join us. You can see here the projected budget for the city-county consortium's home investment partnerships spending. The budget that you see on your screen assumes that the city and county will receive funds this coming year at the same level that we received last year. Congress, in the budget that was passed in February, funded the home program level with the previous year. So it's a good assumption that our funding will be close to, if not what it was in the preceding year. Although with populations changing minorly, our dollars might not exactly equal down to the dollars and the cents what was last year, but we're planning on level funding from last year. And where things go different, our program splits will be adjusted proportionally. The city of Tucson also funds 3 other entitlement programs using HUD funds. The first of these is the Community Development Block Grant. Again, assuming we receive funding level from last year at approximately 5.1 million, you can see how the city plans to split its CDBG funding between human and public services, decent and affordable housing, and community and public facility improvements. It's worth noting that the city in 2022 and 2023 made a commitment to HUD, or to the Treasury, I believe, in receiving the $50 million Choice Neighborhood Grant, that we would use some of our CDBG funding between now and 2031 for some targeted improvements in the Thrive in the 05 zone. So the city anticipates next fiscal year we will be spending approximately $200,000 to begin the 15th Street Improvement Project. Next year, it probably looks like design and maybe beginning of construction on a sidewalk project on the 15th Street corridor. So of that 2.3 million that we've set aside for public facilities improvements, we anticipate using approximately $200,000 next year for improvements to the 15th Street corridor. We will also be using our Emergency Solutions Grant funding for street outreach, emergency shelter, rapid rehousing, and homelessness prevention, along the same lines as we are currently doing this year. It's worth noting that our Emergency Solutions Grants, our HOPWA, I'll go over next, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, and our CDBG Human Services grants are all granted and made to local nonprofit agencies on a 2-year RFP or request for funding cycle. So we put out an RFP in November of 24, and approximately 10 agencies were selected to receive these grants. This is the first year of that 2-year cycle. Next year will be the second year of that 2-year cycle. That's why we anticipate the programs and the funding levels to remain, very close. But November of 2026, a new RFP will go out to the public for agencies to apply to receive grants for the subsequent 2-year funding period. So for all the agencies out there that are seeing this, keep an eye out this October, November for our next cycle of RFP opportunities. The Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA grants, again, we anticipate coming up into the second year of their 2-year cycle, and we will be funding the priorities you see here on the screen. Again, level with what we're doing this year, because we are in the first year of a 2-year cycle, anticipate those grants renewing into the second year of that 2-year cycle. And now I'm going to turn it over to our Pima County colleagues to go over Pima County's annual action plan presentation.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joel Veers with Pima County Community Workforce Development. Before we get to the slide text, first, a big thank you to Andrew for covering basically all of the basics and the information on CDBG and kind of how we apportion these things. Another thing I want to bring your attention to real quick is a couple of projects, several projects that we've been involved in fairly recently. On the left there, you'll see that is the Sahuarita Food Bank. We were fortunate enough to be able to participate in that, help them build this really needed facility down in Sahuarita. In the middle, we have the Amado Youth Center. If all of you are familiar with Amado at all, you know there's not a whole lot out there. This has been a real boon for the youth and the families in the area. Again, we were able to participate, do some furnishing, HVAC on that, those sorts of things. Finally, on the right, that's the Sapori Playground. We replaced old dilapidated equipment there. Again, a real boon for the community right outside Sapori Elementary School. All right, Andrew covered a lot of this. Basically, the CDBG program funds that we program for the county, they're used for those things you can read right there: improve and revitalize lower income neighborhoods through public service programming, public facilities, infrastructure improvements, and housing rehab. Housing rehab is a big one with us. So we do have an annual process. Andrew hinted at how that works. We do a community outreach. We do an annual community planning application. That just closed. We just closed that cycle. It starts in September, and intake closed in January. So right now we're convening our review committee to look over all those applications. We've got about 66, and we hope to fund the majority of them. Of course, they don't usually get what they ask for, but we try. Again, as Andrew covered, thank you. Action plan defines the activities, follow the priorities, goals of the 5-year consolidated plan process, which we just completed. Public service activities, these are things that involve education, programming, that don't result in any physical or tangible actual, projects that are on the ground that you can touch. That's our public facilities and public infrastructure, small capital improvement projects, facility repairs and improvements, durable equipment. This would be things like HVACs for a service facility, something like that, parking lot, anything that really produces a capital improvement to the facility. Housing rehab, again, that's a big one with us. You'll see in a pie chart coming up that most of our funding actually goes to that. It was identified as a very, very high need in the community. We have an in-home program which spends about, I want to say about 1.4 million per year. And then we do subcontract with a couple of nonprofits that do similar work, but they're a little more nimble. They can do smaller projects than we do. We do have limited programming for administration. That's limited to county and local governments. For instance, we do fund the city of South Tucson to help run their CDBG projects. We have currently 8 identified target, or what we like to call opportunity areas. These are areas in which they have been defined demographically to meet the criteria for area-wide benefits. So we can go in there and do projects and don't have to define eligibility individually or by household. So you can see where they are right there. These are all areas of high need. They meet a demographic of 80% or more of the 51% or more of the population within those areas are at or under 80% of the area median income for the county. Program year 26-27, again, we just finished this process. The participation in community outreach, we actually go out to communities throughout rural Pima County. Visit with not just residents in those areas, but the nonprofits. Often places like Aravaca, there aren't so many resources down there, so we meet with kind of the only games in town. We do tend to fund them because there are no other resources down there, or very few. Technical assistance sessions held throughout November. This is our direct community outreach. We will also meet with folks individually or with nonprofits individually or virtually if we need to, if they have questions, if they'd like some insights into how the program works or how to apply, how to submit the best application. The community planning application, we combined CDBG with ESG, Emergency Solutions Grant. Pre-application is released in early November. This is basically a vetting instrument. We make sure that the agency itself is eligible. We make sure that they have kind of their core documents in place, the board of directors, they have some policies and procedures, and we make sure that their project is actually, number one, CDBG eligible, number two, that it really is reasonable and stands a chance of success. We do pre-application approval in mid-December. This allows the applicants to move on to the full application, which asks for a little bit more information, a little more detail on how they intend to spend the money. If they're going to do, say, a public facility project, at this point, we ask them for some preliminary estimates, how much this will cost. Full application is due at the end of January. Once the pre-app closes, we do not offer any more technical assistance. The full app, they're kind of on their own. Once those are all collected, we have a CDBG review committee made up of staff who will review it separately. And then we have a community committee made up of experienced nonprofit folks in the community. Andrew, thank you, is on our committee this year. We do have representatives from the town of Marana and from nonprofits and consultants. So once we get that reviewed by the committee, there is a public comment period. And then the recommendations of the review committee and staff will go to the Board of Supervisors on April 11th. They're the ultimate approvers of all this. Again, we had 66 applications. There is always far more of an ask than we have resources. Obviously, you can see there. We had almost $6 million in ask, and we only have about 2.6 in allocations from HUD, so something has to give on those. ESG, only 13 applications, 600,000 in requests, but ESG is a very small program, so you'll see they only get about 225. Anticipate 225,000 this year. All right, how do we intend to spend this money? This is based on the asks, direct asks from the applicants. ESG, the total available is 225. It looks like for the public facilities improvements, we have about 432,500 programmed and anticipated programming. Public services, which from HUD carries a 15% cap of your total allocation, your entitlement, that's in at about 390. And then, as I mentioned, home repair is a large chunk of what we do, 1.25 million on that one. Emergency Solutions Grant. Unfortunately, our ESG division folks are not available today. Not a lot of money, 100% match required. This is specifically for emergency shelter and homeless prevention. Activities can include street outreach, shelter support, those sorts of things. All right, Marcos? I'm sorry?
Question 2 slides ago, you said there's a 15% cap on it's close.
Yeah.
Can you go back 2 slides?
Yeah, I mentioned on
the
the
public services.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are we meeting the 15% cap or are we below?
Well, we meet it we go over it every year. We have to trim back because it is very popular.
Yeah.
People ask why HUD doesn't raise it. I don't know. But of our total allocation, say we get 2.6 million, only 15% of that can go to public service, which is again those kind of non-tangible projects, education projects, graffiti abatement, things like that, community cleanup, community policing. So it's the infrastructure and specifically the facilities, and even more so home repair, which really you can, make good bang for buck, and that's what we spend most of our money. Sure.
Thank you, Joel. All right, I'll continue with Pima County's affordable housing and home program activities plan for the upcoming fiscal year. As Andrew mentioned, we are a consortium with the city of Tucson, and we jointly fund a number of projects. One of them up here, we've been funding for a number of years, the down payment assistance program. It's citywide, countywide down payment assistance program for low-income home buyers that are within the HUD income guidelines. And we're going to continue that. That program involves local HUD certified counseling agencies that provide education to the home buyers and support. And then we also work with a fiscal agent that helps get the money to the title. For the upcoming year, we are planning to have funding allocated to both rental and homeownership activities in addition to the down payment assistance. We have a proposed development for multifamily housing that I believe has received a commitment of the county's home funds, and it is in the unincorporated area of the county that will be called Drexel Commons, and there's some information here on that project, and it's unique because it involves county land. The land for this development was county surplus land, and the county did an RFP earlier last year to select a developer, and that developer was successful in applying for an allocation of the county's home funds, as well as the county's general funds allocated to affordable housing. So we look forward to that development. It'll bring 72 new units of affordable housing to the Drexel Country Club area. I think it's called the Benson Highway Corridor is what it's referred to as sometimes. And we've also supported habitat developments in the past, and we look to continue with that activity and supporting other homeownership developments similar to Habitat for Humanity. And we have also funded a mobile home replacement program with the county's home funds. And we have a unique partnership with the Pima County Flood Control District. And when they acquire, sometimes they acquire flood-prone properties that have viable, double-wide manufactured homes on them. And once the property is sold, if those are salvageable, we'll look to find a home. We have a long waiting list with our home repair program that's funded primarily with CDBG and weatherization funds. And, there are a number of households on that waiting list that have repairs that exceed the scope of the CDBG repair program. So from that pool of applicants, we are usually able to find someone that needs a replacement home. So we did one last year. We have another one we're getting ready to do next year with that program. So the flood control district pays to break down and transport the unit from the existing site, from the flood prone property to the new site where we're replacing a dilapidated structure for an existing homeowner. And then our home funds pay for the improvements to set it up at the homeowner site to replace their old home, and covers the demolition and removal of that unit as well. So we are looking to continue that. And then also not included here on the slides, I wanted to mention real quick that the county last year passed an affordable housing policy and also a regional affordable housing strategy and funding plan. And that policy and funding plan will provide 250 million over the next 10 years. And so this fiscal year, we had 5 million allocated to affordable development and preservation. 3.5 million was going to keeping people housed, like the eviction prevention program. It'll support home repair and weatherization, as well as emergency rental assistance. And those amounts will be increased next year. And so over the next 10 years, it will hopefully total 250 million. So we're really looking forward to that, and we'll have more information, in the coming year on that. Once the county approves the budget for the next fiscal year, then we'll know, exact allocation amounts for that program. And for the next slide, went the wrong way. We also have a public housing authority consortium that the city and county participate in. And the county has an allocation of vouchers. And through an intergovernmental agreement, the city administers those vouchers on the county's behalf. And you've got the numbers broken down on this slide. And the city is the lead, as I mentioned, on that, and handles all the administration of the vouchers. We do have quarterly meetings with the city, and we have also participated in the project-based vouchers, converting housing choice vouchers to project-based vouchers at a couple of projects, and we look to continue that as well in the coming year as the rental market allows. So I believe that is it on our affordable housing. And thank you again for attending the meeting. And we'll take any questions you have with regard to affordable housing and home.
No, I'm sorry. I want, yes, I do. This is my first meeting of this type. And I'm wondering if I'm even on the proper platform. It looked like it at first. Is most of the allocation like for private individuals, or because I'm trying to help a thriving food bank like do better outreach with whatever funding and programs? Is this that kind of forum?
Yep. Yes, I'm happy to answer that question. This at the city on a 2-year cycle, and at Pima County on an annual cycle, we have open RFPs, or opportunities for community groups to apply for funding to provide various human and public services in the community. So, for example, in November of 24, the Community Food Bank applied to our RFP for, as well as Meals on Wheels, for assistance in providing, food and meal programs in the community. They were awarded in March of 2025, and their 2-year funding cycle began July 1st of 2025. So every other year in the city and every year at the county, community organizations have the opportunity to apply for CDBG or ESG funds in order to provide those type services in the community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so sit tight because we're going forward with this similar information, or am I on different topics? And I apologize to the group. I'll be quiet after that. I'm just curious. Hang in there.
Yes, and let's see if
Okay,
there are any
thank
other
you.
questions, and then we can circle back to you, Yvonne.
I appreciate you. Thanks.
Any other questions? We have a question in the room. Will you state your name and organization for the record? Zach Simmons from the University of Arizona, just for online.
Year, there's the $5 million block grants annually that we're receiving for, but I think that's great. You have more. It's awesome, but what I wasn't really seeing in this are metrics of what we hope to accomplish with these tens of millions of dollars annually. Could you or the other presenters speak to that?
Yes, I'll speak to the planned accomplishments with the city's portion of the entitlement funding. So I'll go to the CDBG slide for the city. So as part of our 5-year HUD consolidated plan, which is not part of this presentation, but is published on the city's website, we have 5-year metrics for how many people we hope to serve with human and public services. It is a very large number. It is more than 100,000 people, because one of our larger programs at the city is the community food bank, who serves tens of thousands of people a month, so which is great. Circling back, I'm talking to my co-presenter Kat behind me to the home investment partnership slide. You'll see here that home funding of approximately $3 million a year. If you look at our consolidated plan, we're estimated assisting 20 fully assisted families with, now I'm getting very technical, with home assisted rental units, but those are leveraged almost 20 to 1. So when we say we hope to assist 20 families with HUD money, that also means that 19 additional families per are going to be, brought in with private and bank financing. So effectively, we hope to assist create 400 to 500 new affordable rental housing opportunities, like the Amazon Flats project, for example, with these home funds. In addition to 15 families a year with down payment assistance times 5 years, that's the gist of it. Unfortunately, I don't have good numbers on slides for you, but it is posted in our HUD consolidated plan.
Sorry, what did you say?
That's on the city's website, on the Housing and Community Development Department's website. I believe it's under Documents and Reports. You'll see the 5-year consolidated plan. And then I'll look to Joel from the county to talk about their $20 million affordable housing initiative.
That I don't know anything about, but let me touch on something else real quick. I can add a little bit to it. Yeah, on the annual action plan, we are required to specify some benchmarks of the number of people we feel we can serve. That's based partly on past experience, of course, history of spending. And then for any of the projects that we undergo with HUD funding, we do have to report metrics, and they're matched to the benchmarks in their online system. That includes demographics, low to moderate income percentage, race, things like that. With the home repair, we are also required, because we receive a fair amount of state funding. We also report energy efficiency measures that we do, before and after numbers, along with all the demographics, things like that. So we are setting benchmarks, and we are trying to meet those. Sometimes we don't always, sometimes we go over them. So that's great.
Yeah, you were asking about the county's affordable housing strategy and the regional strategy and funding plan.
Yeah. I was told where it's being allocated to, but it was.
Yeah, well, so we have it split up into the housing production and preservation, as I mentioned. And this year, there was a total of 8.5 million. And we work with our regional Affordable Housing Commission to help decide on the split. Working with our department staff and county administration, they come up with that recommended split. So this year it ended up out of 8.5 million, 5 million went to housing production and preservation, and then the 3.5 million went to keeping people housed, which includes eviction prevention, home repair, and and as well as rental assistance.
Is there somewhere online where I can see where that like produced or the 3.5 million homelessness prevention? How many people that's impact? Is there a way to see that projection? And like
Yes, I'm not sure if we have them posted yet, but you know, most of these documents you can find on the county administrator's websites. And it would be under the memorandum to the Board of Supervisors. As well as, you know, the meeting summaries and meeting agendas of the Board of Supervisors. But, and then I'm not sure if we have stuff posted on the Regional Affordable Housing Commission's website. The Board of Supervisors just voted on the 5 million last month. And so that would be pretty recent. So you would see that on the February, I think there would be a memo that went to the Board of Supervisors in February for that. The Regional Affordable Housing Strategy is like a 10-year plan, so that won't have any specifics. So year to year, we do an annual RFP for the gap funding. And then, you know, on a yearly basis, we'll, through that RFP process, award funding to projects. And then county administration will decide, you know, how the funds will be allocated between the different county programs that keep people housed. And I believe that might be included on the same memo to the Board of Supervisors at some point with the other funding recommendation. Yeah, there was also, you'll also find information from previous meetings where these presentations are made to the Regional Affordable Housing Commission as well.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Just an aside, Jack, that Andrew mentioned the community development, the City of Tucson Community Development website where you can get some of these documents. The same on the community development and workforce, the county side.
Yeah.
We'll have those same documents, the annual action plan, the consolidated plan, any other things that are coming up, RFPs, anything like that. You know, I mentioned home repair is such an urgent need in the community and increasingly so. Fortunately, the regional commission gave us about 500,000 to throw into our pot to help more people. So that's great.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to more. I think one of my cards and.
Do we have any questions online? So as you can see here online, we still have an open opportunity for anyone in the public to participate, to tell us what they think. You can use the QR codes you see there on your slide. These slides will be posted as well. If you registered online, you should have gotten an email, one informing you of the venue change, and secondly, with a link to provide any feedback you want. I'm going to go back to the timeline slide so you all can know what to expect from here in our planning process. And I'm sorry that I'm zooming so fast for y'all. I may have overshot it. Bear with me online. I know this is going right by your computer screen and can't be pleasant to look at. Okay, here we go. So we will be taking any feedback and questions we got today, as well as with a community outreach meeting on Tuesday, and producing a draft of the upcoming annual action plan by March 25th. At that point, we will be posting this online, and it will be open for public comment for 30 days. A draft of the annual action plan, including any public comment, will be presented to the City of Tucson's mayor and council, as well as Pima County's Board of Commissioners on April 21st. Upon approval by the elected bodies, the combined City of Tucson and Pima County Consortium will be submitting this annual action plan to HUD for HUD's approval on or before May 15th. and that paves the way for the city and county to receive the annual entitlement funding as early as July 1st, the beginning of our city and county fiscal years and the HUD program year. So that's what to expect from here. We will be posting these draft plans on both the city and the county's websites, and they will be open for public comment really from now with your questions through April 24th. Any other questions? If not, you all have our contact info and email addresses, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you all for your attendance, and this concludes today's public meeting.